Welcome to everybody. So we're going to start this class today, as usually on Sundays. We have this meditation.
Δεν ακούγεστε.
Ναι. Γιατί? Hello, 1, 2, 3. Με ακούτε?
Ναι, κανονικά.
Ναι.
Ναι.
Εντάξει. Οι άλλοι λένε ότι ακούν. Ωραία, εντάξει. So then, sorry for the interruption. So then, we're going to start this class. As usually on Sundays, we have these classes. Once, alternatively, we put on Sunday about samatha meditation. That means tranquility meditation on the breath and on metta meditation. And this Sunday is on insight meditation. So this PowerPoint presentation actually is the same as in other classes. The reason it is repeated, it is for those who are new and for them to have some grasp of the whole technique of Vipassana meditation, and also for those who are the old ones who want to refresh the knowledge. Those who have already seen this presentation, they can skip it if they want. They can join the class when we practice the actual meditation itself. That means around 1 hour later. So then it is up to you. Therefore, I'm going to explain again what are the basic things for us to remember if we practice insight meditation. So then, insight meditation was first taught by the historical Gotama Buddha more than 2,500 years ago, and it is unique in its kind. In fact, it was through insight meditation that he himself achieved enlightenment and became a Buddha. Insight meditation exists today in its original form in Theravada Buddhism, which retained the Buddha's original teachings. The word used by the Buddha for this meditation is Vipassanā, which means specialized, expanded vision, seeing. This seeing, passana, exposes the truth of the impermanency, the suffering, and the impersonal and unsubstantial nature of all material and mental phenomena of existence. And indeed, Vipassana does not use the usual way of meditations, but the systematic and methodical observation of material and mental phenomena for the penetration into the actual nature, impermanence, suffering, and not self. It includes exercise in mindfulness and awareness, which is called sati sampajanya, that are used to observe and understand the impermanent, unstable, transient nature of all mental and material phenomena, the attachment to which creates our suffering. The mental principle in Vipassana meditation is observation of rise and fall of every material and mental phenomenon. And if the meditators observe this phenomena, you can see that they actually are in constant rise and fall. So Vipassana observation is essentially to observe the rise and fall of every observed phenomenon, which indicates how the observation is to be developed to deepen understanding of the nature of mental and material phenomena under investigation. So this whole information comes from a discourse what the Buddha expounded, and this discourse is called the Discourse on the 4 Applications of Mindfulness. In Pali, in the ancient language, it's called Satipatthana Sutta. So we use here the applications of mindfulness. Sometimes the patana, the middle word, is translated foundations. So the reason we put the applications, it is also one way to translate it. It is actually more on the practical way. It is we apply mindfulness in every step in this practice. That's why we are called translators applications. So this course has been told by the Buddha that is the direct path to Nibbana. And Satipatthana Sutta is actually one of the most important and widely studied and practiced discourses of the Buddha, acting as a foundation for mindfulness meditation practice, with particular emphasis on the development of insight meditation, Vipassanā. It is called the heart of Buddhist meditation. It contains the most comprehensive explanation of the immediate and straightforward way to achieve the Buddhist goal, Nibbana or Nirvana. It is, as the Buddha calls it, the direct path to the realization of Nibbana. It lays down a complete system in order to train the mind to see with tiny precision the real nature of the body, the feelings, the thoughts, and the mental and material phenomena, and overcome the attachment to them. The Buddha begins this discourse with a statement: this is the direct path for the purification of beings, for the surmounting of sorrow and lamentation, for the disappearance of pain and grief, for the attainment of the true way, for the realization of Nibbana, namely the 4 applications of mindfulness. Why did the Buddha call this the direct path? It is to distinguish it from other meditations such as Kasina meditations, 4 Brahma Viharas, 6 recollections, and so forth. All kinds of meditation would have to do with samatha meditation, means tranquility meditation. These meditations has a certain limit. Then the meditator can achieve what's called high degree of concentration, but it can't analyze this phenomena, mental and material phenomena. It only concentrates on a certain object without analyzing it. And this meditation can lead to Nibbana, but not directly, and can lead to side tracks. That means because they can achieve a certain kind of concentration, they have a limit and they can't go beyond that limit. So, however, Satipatthana leads directly to the final goal, Nibbana, because it uses the method of Vipassana, insight, and how to see the impermanent phenomena, as called, and to overcome attachment to them. Therefore, the purpose of the 4 applications of mindfulness is the purification of beings from defilements and so forth. As the Buddha says, for a long time, this mind has been defiled by lust, hatred, and delusion. Through the defilements of the mind, beings are defiled. With the cleansing of the mind, beings are purified. So now, the 4 applications of mindfulness are actually the observation of the body, which is called Kaya Anupassana, observation of feelings, Vedana Anupassana, observation of thoughts, Chitta Anupassana, and observation of mental and material phenomena, which is called Dhamma Anupassana. Therefore, the meditator has to observe the body, the feelings, thoughts, and mental and material phenomena. And this observation should be done with mindfulness and awareness. Mindfulness in this way, as called, should be remembered. It is actually the memory, the faculty of memory, so that one should remember how this observation takes place and what are the conclusions from it. So in this way, the observation on the body, feelings, and thoughts, and mental material phenomena is one part, but the Vipassana part is to see the rise and fall of this phenomena. So therefore now you can also start observe what is more obvious to your experience. For example, if the body is more obvious, let's say the breath is more obvious, you can observe the breath, because the breath is a very gross movement of the body, which because of the breath our body inhales and exhales, and it's something very gross, one can start observing it. If this movement of the breath is more prominent, more obvious to you, you can start observing the body. But if the feelings are more prominent, you can start observing the feelings. If the thoughts are more prominent, more obvious, you can start observing the thoughts. If mental and material phenomena are more obvious, you can start observing mental and material phenomena. We're going to explain what means mental and material phenomena. But let's start first with the body. So now the observation of the body is explained by the Buddha in a very precise way, what it should be observed, because there are different aspects how we can observe the body. So therefore the Buddha gives some guidelines how to do so. He says, here one abides observing the body as a body, ardent, fully aware, and mindful. So these are the three preconditions in order to make the observation. Because if one is lethargic, sleepy, is not ardent, so one is not able to make the observation. If one is not fully aware and mindful, one is not able to do the observation. That's why the Buddha reminds the meditator to be ardent, fully aware and mindful in order to make this observation. So, and he starts as called first to explain how to observe the body in regard to the breath. Because as we are told, breath, it is as called a function in the body which is repeated again and again. It is easy for a meditator to observe it. So this is called mindfulness of breathing. Sometimes the Buddha explains this mindfulness of breathing as serenity, samatha meditation, just to concentrate on the breath, not to analyze it at all. And but he also explains it as insight meditation. And in this context is actually we're going to see how one can practice insight meditation in regard to the breath. So now we inhale and exhale all the time. We take the in breaths. So then once you take an in breath, you mentally note in breath, that is a mental noting. And once you exhale, that is the out breath, you mentally note out breath. So you usually use this kind of mentally noting in order to be aware what we are observing. And these words, in breath, out breath, in breath, out breath, it is useful to use them in the beginning in order to remind the mind what it has to do. Otherwise, the mind does not know what it has to do. Therefore, this mental noting by using these words, in breath, out breath, in out breath, are very helpful to observe the body. So, and this in breath and out breath can be observed actually on the nose, on the chest, on the belly, wherever it is obvious. So the whole process. And now this is the first part, how to be aware of the in breath and out breath. But then comes the second part, which is the insight meditation. And as we have already told, the main principle in Vipassanā meditation is observation of rise and fall of every mental and material phenomenon. So how even this breath, it rises and falls. That's why the Buddha says, one abides observing in the body its nature of rising or its nature of falling or its nature of both rising and falling. This is what you are already told, to see the rise and fall of the body. And in this context, it is the breath, because the breath all the time rises and falls. When we inhale, that is a rise. When we exhale, that is a fall. So this is the Pali text for those who want to check the what's called the Pali. So here the Buddha uses these words, samudaya dhamma nupasiva kayasmi viharati. Samudaya means the rise, dhamma means the nature, anupasi means observing, kaya means the body, viharati means abiding. So, and again he says, Vaya Dhammanupasi Kayasmi Viharati. Vaya means the fall, Dhamma means the nature of fall. And the rest is the same as before. And Samudaya Vaya Dhammanupasi Viharati, Kayasmi Viharati means, Samudaya means rise, Vaya means fall, Dhamma means nature. To see the nature of rise and fall. So in the beginning, the meditator sometimes may understand only the rise. Later can understand also the fall, but afterwards he can see both, rise and fall, rise and fall. For example, in the breath, we may see first the rise, after we may see the fall, and after we can see that this is repeated again and again, then one can see the rise and fall again and again being repeated. So in this case now, what we have, the observation with mindfulness and awareness, has two parts. The first part, it is knowing the object of observation. The second part is Vipassana, seeing its nature of rise and fall. And in this case, the object of observation is the body. And the Vipassana part, it is to see the rise and fall of it. So it is not only to be aware of the body, of the breath, but to see the nature of it. What is its nature? That is where Vipassana starts. Therefore, now in the in-breath, there is this expansion we feel, and that is the rise. And for the out-breath, that is the contraction, when the body contracts, and that is the fall. Therefore, for every expansion, you can see a rise in the body. For every contraction, we see a fall. So, and this is actually this in-breath, out-breath, which is the rise and fall. The meditator can see that is repeated again and again. And you can see this continuous rise and fall. This is the task of the meditator. It is not only to know the in and out breath, but to see also its fleeting nature. It is it's called the rise and fall of it. So then for the in-breath, therefore now, if you want to observe it, you mental note in-breath and see the rise of it, and mental note rise. For the out-breath, you mental note out-breath and see the fall of it. So these are the words we have to use in order to be aware what you observe. So even if you tell in-breath, out-breath, in, out-breath 2, 3, 4 times, try to see, go to the next part, which is to see the rise and fall. So, and repeat these words, rise and fall for each in-breath and out-breath. So then this observation, as already told, can be observed either at the tip of the nose when you feel the breath, or if you can't feel it there, you may feel it on the chest or on the belly. So in whichever place it is prominent, you can see this process of in and out breath, and then mentally note in breath, out breath, in breath, out breath, and then go to see what happens with this breath. What that is breath is called rises and falls. Then you try to concentrate on this process of rise and fall. So you can do so also at the tip of the nose. For the in breath, you mental note in breath and see the rise. And for the out breath, you mental note out breath and see the fall of it. So that is in the gross way, but you can do it also in the subtle way. So you can see for the in breath, the rise and fall, because each in breath has a beginning and has an end. The beginning is the rise and the end is the fall. For the out breath also, we can see that it also has a rise and fall. That means if the breath exceeds the body, so that is the beginning. When it stops exceeding, that is the end. Therefore, the beginning is a rise, the end is a fall. And accordingly, you can mentally note in breath, rise and fall, out breath, rise and fall. So in the beginning, you can use these words in order to be acquainted with the whole practice. Otherwise, if you have already progressed, you can skip these words because the mind, after some time, knows what it has to observe. as called, you can only repeat these words when the mind becomes distracted. So in order to bring the mind back to the observation, you can mentally note these words and just leave the mind observe the whole process of rise and fall. So that is one aspect, how to observe the body with the in-breath and out-breath. So, but there are also other aspects where the Buddha explains how to see this rise and fall in other movements of the body. For example, if we walk, we lift the leg, we move it forwards and we place it. Here also you can see the rise and fall. So therefore, if you walk, you can also see this movement of lifting, moving, placing. So, and then after you can see that this whole process of movement it's also the nature of rise and fall. So even if you do so in a very detailed way to see how the body moves, the legs move, how the heel goes up, and then there is a lifting, moving, lowering, touching, placing. One can see this phenomenon of rise and fall even in very minute, a very detailed way. So every small movement has this kind of rise and fall in it. So other aspects how to observe the body, it is about the postures. For example, if we sit, if we stand, if we walk, if we lay down. So these are also movements we do every time, as called the whole day around. So, and during sitting, for example, there is also rise and fall. How is that? Because if we start sitting, that is a rise. If we stop sitting, that's the fall. So, and we can't maintain this posture for a long time because after some time we have to change it. That means this posture of sitting, as called, there is a rise in it, that is a beginning. And after some time we get tired of sitting, that is a fall. So standing the same, we can't stand like that for a long time. There is a limit. So therefore, the beginning is the rise and the end of this standing is the fall. So while walking, we can't walk that forever. There is a limit for that. The beginning is a rise and the end is a fall. So lying down in one position like that, as called, there is a limit. So and the beginning is the rise and the end is a fall. So if we change position, that is the fall of this position. Therefore, you can see that in every movement we do with the body, there is a kind of beginning and end. That is a rise and fall of it. So other aspects how to observe this rise and fall in the body, it is to see through the elements. For example, we have the solid element in our body, the liquid element, the heat element or the wind element in our body. So if one observes this, it's called the elements, they all the time change. So, and one can see this rise and fall in these elements. So by doing this observation of rise and fall, so one can see that one can come to a certain conclusion, and this is what the Buddha says: mindfulness that there is the body is simply established in oneself. And this is to the extent necessary for bare knowledge and strong mindfulness. The meaning is there is only the body or a bodily process, not a being, not a person, not a woman, not a man, not the self, not what belongs to a self, not I, not mine, not somebody, not what belongs to somebody. So this may appear strange to some people because they identify themselves with the body and they think it is me, it is myself. But if one observes these all processes, so one can see that it's just processes. There is nobody there. So, and these processes occur according to the cause and conditions. Now, for example, we breathe in and out. Why? One reason, it is because there is oxygen. If we get short of oxygen, we can't breathe. We have to stop breathing. We may even die. Therefore, if oxygen exists, we exist. If oxygen does not exist, we don't exist. So we see that this body depends on what? This bodily process of breathing depends on the oxygen. So that is one way one can see this thing, that it is not, this oxygen is who? It's not me. And this bodily process is who? It is not me. It is actually a process, a chemical process, to tell like that, which occurs. Even if we sleep, we are not aware that we are breathing, but this process goes on. So another thing is to see this body. Actually, this body do not belong to us. We got it from our parents. The DNA, which is all over our cells, it is borrowed from where? It is actually from our parents. And our parents got this DNA from whom? From their parents. And their parents from whom? From their parents. In this way, it goes in the infinity. To whom it belongs this body? So if one observe, I can see that the whole process of this body is actually a phenomenon which occurred for us called, we borrowed it, and this process does not belong to us. It is a process for the cells to be alive. And these cells come from our parents, and these cells come from us called, that means they borrowed from their parents and so forth. And to whom it belongs, it is only a fallacy we have that this body belongs to us. We just use something, a process which we identify with them. And this process is not a being, not a person, not a woman, so not a man. And it is not ourself. It's not our, we can call it something mind. This is how one can get detached from this identification to this body, to this attachment to this body, to this clinging of the body. So, and this is enabled through the Vipassanā, to see the whole process of rise and fall, how this, to see the impermanent nature of this body. So, and this is for the sake of the wider and wider and higher measure of knowledge and mindfulness. This is called Yatha Bhuta Jnana, knowledge of the phenomena as they really are and not as we imagine them to be. And then the Buddha says, and one abides independent, not clinging to anything in the world. So the meaning is independent, not depending on craving and speculations and wrong views in regard to the body, not clinging to anything in the world, one does not cling to anybody that this is myself or what belongs to myself. This is how they are called, one can actually get this kind of, remove these illusions regarding this body and see it completely as just a process without identifying with this body. This is a liberation, freedom from attachment to one's own body. So then, now another aspect how to see ourselves, it is to observe our feelings, because we don't consist only of the body, it consists also of feelings which arise in our body or in our mind. So then, some people, they find it easy to observe with the feelings, because if they sit in meditation, the breath, it is not obvious to them. But if they observe the body, they can see that there are many feelings, painful feelings in the body, maybe a headache, maybe a pain on the spine, on the knees, and so forth. They feel certain sensations in the body, and this become more prominent. If the teacher tells them, okay, start observing them, then it is very easy for them to practice and to develop Vipassanā. So that's why the Buddha explains how to also to observe the feelings if the feelings are more prominent. He explains that one abides observing feelings as feelings, again, ardent, fully aware and mindful as before. So, and this observation of feelings, he classifies in different feelings, because in our body it does not appear on feeling, maybe appear different feelings, like for example, a pleasant feeling or unpleasant, painful feeling, can be also a neutral feeling, but can be a feeling connected with a material stimuli, and a feeling connected with the immaterial, spiritual, or meditative stimuli. Because even during meditation, one can have very blissful feelings arising. So this can be taken as an object and see how these feelings also they rise and fall. They are not permanent. So then here the Buddha gives the guidance how to observe these feelings. He says, when feeling a pleasant feeling, one understands I feel a pleasant feeling. So when feeling a painful feeling, one understands I feel a painful feeling. When feeling a neither painful nor pleasant feeling, one understands I feel a neither painful nor pleasant feeling. This is actually the neutral feeling. It does not have any pleasantness or some unpleasantness pleasant in it. It's just a neutral feeling. And that is one way how to be aware of these feelings. What are the particular feeling one feels? So, and then the Buddha explains now the second part, which is the insight meditation. There he says, one abides observing the feelings, the nature of rising and the nature of falling, or the nature of rising, or both rising and falling. Here again, that is the Vipassana part. It is to see the rise and fall. In this way also we can understand that the observation with mindfulness and awareness has two parts. The first part is knowing the object of observation, and the second part it is Vipassana, seeing its nature of rise and fall. And in this case, the object of observation is the feelings. And the nature of rise and fall is the nature of called the rise and fall of the feelings. So now, because some of the feelings, if we observe them, you can see that they don't disappear immediately. They don't fall immediately. There is a gap which some feelings, they persist. They stay long. So in this staying period, it is where the Buddha also explains how to observe the feelings if they stay for some time. Here he says, one knows feelings as they arise, as they stay, and as they disappear. So that is actually how one can see these things, that during the time one observes the feelings, there is between rise and fall, there is a period of staying. As I told you, some feelings can persist. For example, if a painful feeling, the meditator observes it, so one can see that this painful feeling does not fall immediately. There is a period where it stays, and after sometimes it falls. So while this feeling stays, the meditator can mentally note staying. So here we're going to see how these feelings operate. Now, if there is unpleasant feeling, so let's see on the knee, on the hand, or on the shoulder, or on the head, you mentally note unpleasant feeling. So then this can be any part of the body, wherever you feel it. According to that, you can go to that part and mentally note unpleasant feeling. So then, and then if that unpleasant feeling goes away, you can see that it might come again, go away. So here, how you can see, observe the rise and staying fall. As long as this feeling is present, you mentally note staying. After it disappears, you mentally note fall. So therefore, now this feeling can appear again, can disappear again. So this is how they appear again, and then you mentally note rise, staying, fall, as long as they stay. So this is how to observe these feelings in whatever part of the body. So, and if there is a pleasant feeling, you mentally note pleasant feeling. So now, how this pleasant feeling can be, it is now, for example, if you have a painful feeling, if that painful feeling goes away, so then a pleasant feeling may appear. So you can see that after the unpleasant feeling goes away, so if you observe sometime, you can see there is some relief. You think, oh, how good, this unpleasant feeling is going away. And then pleasant feeling arises. You can observe this pleasant feeling, be aware of it. So, and this also on the hand, so it can be also that you can feel now a pleasant feeling after the unpleasant feeling goes away. On the shoulder, for example, you may feel unpleasant feeling. After the unpleasant feeling goes away, the pleasant feeling comes. So on the head, if there's unpleasant feeling, after that goes away, then the pleasant feeling comes. Whatever part of the body you feel this pleasant feeling, some relief and so forth from the unpleasant, so you mentally note pleasant feeling. So, and then you can try to see also how this pleasant feeling, so rise and falls, can be also rise and fall. In that case now, I call you mental note rise, staying, fall. As long as this pleasant feeling stays, you try to see how it stays and stays, and after it falls. And mental note rise, staying, fall. If you see the rise, you mental note the rise. If you see the staying, you mental note the staying. If you mental see the fall, you mental note fall. So in this case now you can see how these feelings can change all the time. It's called here also on the shoulder, like how it's called, you have different feelings arise and so forth. So on the head can be pleasant feeling, come again and disappear. So this is how one can observe this phenomenon. And then regarding a neutral feeling, you can also mental note a neutral feeling if there is neutral feeling. Now, for example, if the pleasant feeling arises and then it disappears, it does not come. So it is neutral feeling. You don't have any feeling on the body. You don't feel anything. You don't feel unpleasant, you fall, you don't feel pleasant. That is neutral feeling. Here again, for example, if you have a painful feeling somewhere, so this goes away, then after that, there is nothing pleasant. It's just a neutral feeling. You mental not neutral feeling. And see how this neutral feeling also rises, stays, and falls, because it is not also permanent. That also changes. And mental note rise, staying, fall, as long as it rises and stays and falls. So therefore now, if you have pleasant feeling, it goes, it's neutral feeling. It's unpleasant, pleasant feeling, it goes, it comes neutral feeling. If it is a pleasant feeling on the head, it goes, it comes neutral feeling. So this is how one can observe these feelings according to the spot they arise and try to identify them, what kind of feeling this is, and see the rise and fall. So if one does so, then ultimately mindfulness that there is the feeling is simply established in oneself to the extent necessary for bare knowledge and strong mindfulness. The meaning is there is only the feeling or a feeling process, not a being, not a person, not a woman, not a man, not the self, not what belongs to a self, not I, not mine, not somebody, or not what belongs to somebody. So then, because if one observes these feelings in this way again and again, what happens is one can see that many of these feelings, we never told them to come. Now, for example, if you feel a painful feeling, did you ever tell this painful feeling to come? Many times, no. Who wants to have a painful feeling? To have a headache, for example? No. Many people, they don't like it, but it comes. We don't tell it to stay, it stays. Sometimes we don't tell it to go, it goes. Even if we tell it to go, it does not go. Who is this feeling? All right? So then it is me. If it goes me, I will have the control to tell it anytime to go away or to tell it not to come. But it is not so. We can see it's just a feeling process. There are processes which arise probably because of certain conditions. Can be chemical conditions in the body, okay? Can be also external conditions, weather conditions. Because of weather conditions, these feelings arise. It just only processes. It's not a being, for sure. It's not a woman or a man. This feeling is for sure. Who is this for? That means there is not a self there. It is just a process. So this is how one can actually objectify this feeling and see this like it's an object rather than identify with it or be attached to it, cling to it as me and myself. And this is for the sake of a wider and wider and higher measure of knowledge and mindfulness. This is again called Yatha Bhuta Jnana, knowledge of the phenomena as they really are, and not as we imagine them to be. And then the Buddha says, and abides independent, not clinging to anything in the world. So the meaning is independent, not depending on craving and speculations or wrong views in regard to feelings. Not clinging to anything in the world means in the world one does not cling to any feeling that is myself or what belongs to myself. Therefore, now this is one can get called detached from this identification and clinging towards this feeling, and to be independent, not to get dragged along with these feelings. For the unpleasant feelings, we feel sorry if we are unpleasant feelings. So, and with pleasant feeling, we feel excited. Now, the meditator, as called, has a complete tranquil mind. As called, either he does not either get depressed because of unpleasant feeling. He does not get excited because of pleasant feelings. This is how he can maintain a kind of equanimity towards this phenomena. So another aspect how we can observe ourselves, it is through the observation of thoughts. Sometimes we may have anger, desire, and delusions. So this is how some people find it easy to observe the thoughts, because if they sit in meditation, what becomes more prominent is not the feelings, it's not the breath, but so many thoughts come in the mind. And the mind becomes so occupied, if you tell them just observe the breath, it's impossible, because the mind is all the time walking with so many thoughts and ideas and so forth. So if we tell them to observe the feelings, almost impossible, because they have so many worries, they have so many plans, and the mind becomes occupied with so many thoughts. That is how the Buddha advises and gives guidelines for those who find it easy to observe the thoughts, how to do so. So, and he says, one abides observing the thoughts as thoughts, again, ardent, fully aware and mindful as before, because these are the preconditions. So, and he says, one understands a thought with lust or desire as a thought with lust or desire. Desire is something which is very common in our mind, and we desire so many things. Sometimes there is a list of things we desire, and we get disappointed because we can't fulfill the whole list. And if we can't do so, we feel depressed, we feel stressed, also like that. So, and it's a very common phenomenon in the mind for desire to arise. And in Vipassanā, we try to see what is the nature of this desire, how it arises in our mind. So therefore, and to understand better why this desire actually arises in our mind. So, and first we have to be aware, whatever is this desire, it can be lust also, and to be aware of it. We try to understand it. Don't try to chase away, to fight this desire in us, or to suppress it, to repress it. No, we just want to understand it. So, and to be aware of it. So that is the first step. But if this desire goes away and there is no desire, the Buddha says, one understands a thought without lust, desire, is a thought without lust or desire. So here we can see that this desire is nothing permanent in our mind. It arises, it stays for sometimes, it goes away. So if it goes away, there is another thought comes, which is without desire. So the difference between these two, it is that if we have a desire in our mind, there is tension. The meditator can see there is some tension. But if this desire goes away, then this tension goes away. And there is some serenity in the mind, some tranquility, some calm in the mind. So this is how the meditator can see the difference between desire and desire. Desire is tension, no desire is no tension. It's calmness. So, but even in this calmness, the meditator should also see how this calmness also rises, stays, and falls. So this is how the Buddha advises to see both aspects of desire and not desire. So then, there is anger in our mind also. One understands a thought with hate or anger as a thought with hate or anger. And anger, it is very common aspect how we can see in our mind. We don't try to chase away this mind, or to fight with this anger, or to blame ourselves why we get angry. It's not that the practice. The practice is just to be aware of it, to observe it, to see it, just accept what is there, to be aware of it. But if this anger goes away, there is no anger, then the Buddha says, understands a thought without hate or anger is a thought without hate or anger. So this is to be aware of this phenomena just in plainly, as called, not to try to change them or like that, just to see, because we want to see the nature of them. If we try to alter them, we are not able to see the nature. So, and there is also another aspect in our mind which is delusion. Means delusion can be fantasies, daydreaming, worries, doubt, uncertainties we have in our life. All these are included in this kind of deluded mind. When we have lack of knowledge in this context, delusion means lack of knowledge. We don't know exactly what decision to take. We're uncertain about some things, and the mind gets scattered, dispersed, has no direction, and sometimes daydreams and fantasizes, and all kinds of, it has all kinds of worries and doubts and so forth. That all this kind is called deluded mind, and we call it delusion. That's why the Buddha says, one understands a thought good delusion as a thought good delusion. But if this thought of delusion is not permanent, it is also changes. So then there is what's called a thought of no delusion also. That's why the Buddha says, one understands a thought without delusion as a thought without delusion. So then the difference between these thoughts with anger, no anger, delusion or delusion, it is also that if there is anger or delusion in our mind, there is some tension. So if this delusion goes away, you can see that the mind becomes calm. So in both aspects, whether it is tension or calmness, the meditator should be aware of this and to see the difference between anger, no anger, and delusion, no delusion. So then that is one aspect. And then, as called, this is the first part of observation. But there comes the second part of observation, which is insight meditation. In this way, the Buddha says, one abides observing in the thoughts, the nature of rising and the nature of falling, and the nature of both rising and falling. Here again, he repeats how to see this rise and fall. And this is, as we have already told, the observation of mindfulness and awareness has here again two parts. The first part, it is knowing the object of observation. The second part, it is Vipassanā, seeing its nature of rise and fall. In this case, the object of observation is not the feelings, it's not the body, but are the thoughts. And to see the Vipassana part, it is to see the rise and fall of them. So because some of these thoughts, if they arise, they don't immediately fall. They don't disappear immediately. They last some time. They stay for some time. That's why the Buddha says in different sutta how one can observe this. And he says, one knows thoughts as they arise, as they stay, and as they disappear. So in this case now we can see you have this rise, staying, and fall. We have three phases how to observe the thoughts. If they stay, we mentally not staying. As long as they stay, and if they fall, we mentally not fall. So this is how between rise and fall, there is a period which we call staying, the staying period, the duration of these thoughts. One can observe them by mentally noting, staying, as long as they stay. If they fall, one says they fall. So now one tip is that if you can't know exactly what a particular thought is, you may grossly understand it as thought or thoughts. A mental note, thoughts. simply thoughts, because you can't understand what kind of thought this is, whether it's desire or anger and so forth, if you can't identify this thought. And try grossly mental note, it's called, and say thoughts, 3-4 times, and then see how these thoughts also rise, staying in form. A mental note, rise, staying in form. So, but if you can identify this thought, for example, if the thought with lust or desire, you can be more precise, and the more precise you are, the better. So in that case, now you mental note thought with lust or desire, and see the second part, which is rise, staying, fall of it. A mental note, rise, staying, fall, as long as this thought stays. So, and then if there is thought without lust or desire, you mental note it and try to see the rise and staying and fall of it in mental note, rise, staying, and fall. If there is thought with anger, you mental note thought with anger, try to see the rise, staying, and fall of it and mental note, rise, staying, fall. If there is thought without anger, you mental note thought without anger and try to see the rise, staying, and fall of it and mental note, rise, staying, and fall. If there is thought with delusion, you mental note thought with delusion and try to see the rise, staying, and fall of it and mental note, rise, staying, and fall. If there is thought without delusion, you mental note thought without delusion, try to see the rise, staying, and fall of it and mental note, rise, staying, and fall. This is how you can observe these thoughts grossly, if it is not possible to observe very precisely. In the first step, you mental note thoughts of thoughts, so, and see the rise, staying, and fall of them. So then, but if you try to see what quality these thoughts have, it can be quality with desire, with anger, and so forth, then you become more precise and see also again the rise, staying, and fall. By doing so, therefore, now the Buddha says, mindfulness, that there is the thought is simply established in oneself. So, to the extent necessary for bare knowledge and strong mindfulness. The meaning here is also that there is only the thought or a thought process. So, not a being, not a person, not a woman, not a man, not the self, not what belongs to a self, not I, not mine, not somebody, not what belongs to somebody. Now, we may think that these thoughts are right because we want them all the time to have them with us. No, if you observe, you can see that many of these thoughts, we never, ever, ever imagine that they will come in our mind. So now many of the people, they don't want to become angry, but suddenly anger comes. So, and this anger, it stays, it does not go. And if you go to tell it to go, it does not go. So it stays. Who is this anger? So then how it comes? So, and then diluted thoughts also come. If we close our eyes, many images come our mind, they come and go, come and go. We never told these images to come. So if we daydream and so forth, we never told it. If we imagine something, we don't tell this imagination to come, but they come. So the mind therefore produces all the time something. It is it's like machine who all the time produces new thoughts, new ideas, new feelings, new emotions, moods. So therefore now it digests actual information which it takes from our. Can you hear me now?
Μάλιστα.
Okay. So then now we try to identify with this thought process, and if we observe all these thoughts, we can see that many of these thoughts, they appear as called without our interventions, because as I told you, the mind takes information from outside, digests information. It is like a machine who all the time produces certain thoughts, ideas, fantasies, and so forth. So with this meditation, we can see that this mind actually is like a machine which produces thoughts. And then we can see this mind like a thought process, not like a person, not a being. And to see it very objectively without identifying with his mind. So, and this is for the sake of a wider and wider and higher and higher measure of knowledge and mindfulness. This is called Yatha Bhuta Jnana, knowledge of the phenomena as they really are and not as we imagine them to be. And by doing this practice, the Buddha says, and one abides independent, not clinging to anything in the world. So the meaning here is again, independent, not dependent on craving and speculations and wrong views in regard to the thoughts. Not clinging to anything in the world, one does not cling to any thought that this is myself or what belongs to myself. So then that is one aspect how to observe the thoughts. Now the Buddha explains all the other aspects of our self, how it's called certain phenomena arise, which is called the mental and material phenomena, and how to observe them. So then we're going to explain how these mental and material phenomena can be observed in a very practical way. The Buddha explains different ways how to observe them. So then we will give one example how to observe them, which is very practical, and to for you to have at least some idea how these phenomena are ever present in our us, and how a big impact they have in our mind. So, and here the Buddha says, one abides observing mental and material phenomena as mental and material phenomena, again, urgent, fully aware and mindful as before. So, and then one example how to observe this mental phenomena, it is to observe them through the sense organs. Now, for example, through the eye, because we have an eye. The eye is a material phenomenon, what's called, and we have the sense object also, like visual object. These are material phenomena. But because of this material phenomena, mental phenomena can occur. The way how it happens is now, for example, if a visual object like color or shape impinges on the eye, so then then this has impact on the mind. So for example, if the color is beautiful, we feel pleasant feeling in the mind, or pleasant thoughts come in the mind, how beautiful this color is, or how the shape is. So then thoughts arise in the mind. So here you can see the connection between material phenomena and also the mind. So in the same way with the ear, if we, for example, hear sounds, pleasant sounds, these impinge on the ear and we hear them, and they generate thoughts in the mind. So if there are pleasant sounds, we feel good. If there are unpleasant sounds, we feel bad. So therefore, our moods can change because of sounds. That's called, this is how material phenomena can influence our mental phenomena. That means the moods we have, the dispositions we have towards this object. And then there's a nose, and there are smells, and we know how smells play a big role for our moods. So therefore, if smells impinge on our nose, this has impact on the mind, and we feel good if the smells are good smelling. But we feel very bad if there are some bad smells around us. We sometimes get very angry with that. We get angry with other people because of bad smells. So therefore, now we can see how these material phenomena, like smells and the nose and so forth, which if they impinge together, they can produce thoughts, moods, emotions, and so forth. So then, and there is a tongue and tests. So we know how good tests, they make us feel very good, but bad tests, we have to avoid them. We get angry sometimes if somebody gives us something to taste very bad, some unpleasant taste. So therefore now, if taste imbedes in our tongue, so this can produce different, has impact in our mind, in our moods, and it's called pleasant moods, unpleasant moods. So similar also with the body, we have the body and the tangible object, whatever things we touch, come in contact with, these have also impact on our body. So pleasant, tangible things, for example, soft things like towels and so forth, or bed sheets, whatever, we feel so good. But if it is something unpleasant touching our body, we feel so bad. And this has impact in our mind. So this is how material phenomena can influence our moods, it's called our mentality, our ideas, and so forth. So, and these ideas can produce by the mind. And again, as a result, these ideas also have impact in our mind again. So therefore, there is a mental phenomena can influence other mental phenomena. For example, this idea can produce another idea in our mind. We feel good in our mind. But certain ideas, they may produce something, bad moods in our mind, bad dispositions. So this is how ideas can change the mentality. Mental phenomena, which are ideas, can also change other mental phenomena in our mind. This is how the observation can be done. And during meditation, for example, sounds are very prominent. Sometimes if we try to concentrate the mind and we hear sounds around, this can be taken as an object of observation. And some meditators find it easy to do this meditation, especially those who already practice for some time. So they can see how this visual object, sound, smells, taste, and changeable and so forth, they have big impact. How we think, how we feel, what ideas we produce. So they can change many things of our mentality, our mental makeup. So this is how some meditators find it easy to observe mental and material phenomena. Of course, this is usually for advanced meditators, but even beginners can start practicing some things of this, especially with sounds. If there are sounds around, one can contemplate them and see how they also rise and fall. Now, here is actually the second part, as I told you, that is insight meditation, how to observe, not only to know this mental and material phenomena, but also to know the nature of them. And here how the Buddha explains how to do so. He says, one abides observing in the mental and material phenomena the nature of rising or the nature of falling or the nature of both rising and falling. Here we see, as being, again, the Buddha speaks about to observe the rise and fall of them. And as we're already told, the observation of mindfulness and awareness has here also two parts. The first part, it is knowing the object of observation. The second part is Vipassanā, which is seeing its nature rise and fall. And in this case, the object of observation is mental and material phenomena, and the Vipassanā is to see the rise and fall. So therefore, whatever we have told up to now about this observation, mental material phenomena, it is to see actually how this mental phenomena rise, staying, and fall. Now, for example, the sound, if you observe a sound, you mentally note sound, 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 and then after you can see how, as long as this sound continues, you mentally note staying, staying, staying. If the sound disappears, you can mentally note fall. So this is how you can see how this sound can have impact in the mind and can produce different moods. If the moods become more prominent, you can go to the mental phenomena, for example, and see how this is called this mental phenomena can be ideas which are produced. See also how these ideas also they rise, staying, and fall. So one can do it. I gave you an example with the sound. This can be also with smells, with taste, and tangible objects. Whenever we touch, can see that is it's called how this have impact in our mind, how we see this material phenomena have influence our mind, and see that also here there is the same principle of rise, staying, fall. There is nothing permanent in this phenomena. And you have to mentally note rise, staying, and fall. So then by doing so, the Buddha says, mindfulness that there are mental and material phenomena is simply established in oneself to the extent necessary for bare knowledge and strong mindfulness. The meaning here is also, there are only mental and material phenomena, not a being, not a person, not a woman, not a man, not a self, not what belongs to a self, not I, not mine, not somebody, not what belongs to somebody. So this is again for the sake of a wide and higher measure of knowledge and mindfulness. This is called Yatha Bhuta Jnana, knowledge of the phenomena as they really are and not as we imagine them to be. And again, the Buddha says, abides independent, not clinging to anything in the world. So the meaning is independent, not dependent on craving, speculations, or wrong views in regard to the mental and material phenomena, not clinging to anything in the world. In the world, one does not cling to any mental and material phenomena that this is myself or what belongs to myself. So therefore now the aim is to be independent, not to cling to this phenomena who are impermanent. So we're going now to summarize all these things and speak about the concentration by insight meditation. So because by doing this practice, one can gain a certain concentration, which is called Vipassanā samadhi. So how this happens? Now, if we observe, for example, the body, the feelings, the thoughts, and mental and material phenomena, these are different objects. Now, the body is not the feelings is not the body, and so forth. Different objects. But there is one common characteristic in all these phenomena, and that is the Vipassana characteristic of rise and fall. Not a single of these phenomena is exempted from rise and fall. And this is constant. The rise and fall is constant. Therefore, the meditator, whatever he sees, as called the body or the feelings, the thoughts or mental material phenomena, he can see one constant thing happening again. This is rise and fall. So that is why his mind becomes concentrated, because this is repeated, it's called constantly, rise and fall, rise and fall, rise and fall. This repetition of rise and fall is called, it is what actually produces a kind of samadhi. It means the mind can become concentrated on this phenomena, which can produce a concentration. The mind becomes concentrated, does not get lost. So if we don't use the Vipassana aspect to see the body, feelings, and thoughts, we might think these are completely different things. They have something in common. No, it's not so. The common thing is that they have a rise and fall. That is why the mind gets unified. There is a unifying principle in all these phenomena, that they rise and fall. And the mind does not get lost, gets actually concentrate on that principle and attains a kind of concentration about which the Buddha says. He says, and what is the development of concentration, samadhi bhavana, that leads to mindfulness and awareness? So, and he says, here one knows feelings as they arise, as they stay, and as they disappear. So therefore now, here the Buddha repeats this principle of rise, staying, and fall. That is where the mind gets concentrated. It's not only on the body. Yes, the breath, for example, yes, in breath or out breath. But he gets concentrated on this phenomenon of rise, staying, and fall. So, or the feelings the same. Perception the same. It's called, one knows perceptions as they arise, as they stay, as they disappear. So here again, the Buddha emphasizes this principle to see rise, staying, fall. That is where the mind gets concentrated, not on the perception itself, but the rise and staying and fall of the perception. And again, one knows thoughts as they arise, as they stay, as they disappear. As called, here again, when does the mind get concentrated? Samadhi. It is not the thought itself. Yes, that's one aspect, but on the rise, staying, and fall of the thoughts. So this is actually how one has to practice and to get this kind of concentration, which we call Vipassana Samadhi. Now, regarding this rise, staying, and fall, the Buddha has spoken of it many times, usually in a very short, it's called in the short, two short phases, rise and fall, rise and fall. So, and one can find this not only on particular sutta like Satipatthana Sutta and 2, 3, 4 suttas. In many of his discourses, one can see how he speaks and explains about the rise and fall. Especially in one very famous book, which is called Dhammapada, he says, even though one should live 100 years without comprehending how all things rise and fall, yet better indeed is a single day's life of one who comprehends how all things rise and fall. And the last words of the Buddha were, all phenomena have the nature of fall. Vaya Dhamma. Try to understand this with diligence. So in this way now, those who attain enlightenment in the Buddhist interpretation, it is they who see this rise and fall. And Vipassana, it is to the path, direct path to Vipassana, to Nibbana. So the first attainment of Nibbana is called attainment of the stream entry, which is called Sotapannahood. The first time one attains Nibbana. So those who attain Sotapannahood understand whatever has the nature to rise, all that has the nature to cease. Here's the Pali text, which is repeated again and again for those who attain Sotapanna. So then here it is Samudaya. Samudaya. Dhamma Nirodha, it is actually cessation, or it is a synonym of fire, Vaya. It's called of fall. So, and this is repeated in suttas, in discourses, where everyone who is attained Sotapannahood, what did he understand? It is this principle of rise and fall. This understanding is called the eye of the Dhamma, Dhammacakku, that is the eye of the true nature of all phenomena. The true nature of all phenomena, it is whatever has the nature to rise, has the nature to cease. Here, Samudaya Dhamma, the Dhamma, it is what? Samudaya Dhamma and Nirodha Dhamma. Having seen this truth through the observance of rise and fall, a Sotapanna has severed the fetter of self-identity view or personality view, skeptical doubt, and also adherence to rules and austerities, with the belief that only this can bring about purification and liberation. He now possesses the intellect, which is excellent and liberating, leading to the complete cessation of existential suffering. So now, in order to summarize what we have already told, so about this observation of mindfulness, we have repeatedly explained how this has two parts. The first part is knowing the object of observation. The second part is Vipassana, seeing its nature of rise and fall. And the object of observation can be the body, and to see its rise and fall can be the feelings, to see its rise and fall can be the thought, to see the rise and fall of them, and can be mental and material phenomena, and to see the rise and fall of them. So now the observation on the body, feelings and thoughts and mental and material phenomena, it is done through with Vipassana also to see the rise and fall of them. Therefore, now you observe what is more obvious, evident, noticeable to your experience. So, if the body is more evident, more obvious, you can start with the body, for example, with the breath. If the feelings are more prominent, you can start with the feelings. If the thoughts are more prominent, you can start with the thoughts. If mental material phenomena are more prominent, you can start mental material phenomena. So you can change this. If, for example, mental material phenomena are not present, but thoughts are more prominent, you can continue with the thoughts. If thoughts are more there, you can go back to the feelings. If feelings are more prominent. If feelings are no more there, you can go back to the breath. So therefore now you can, interchange this observation. While you observe the body, if the feelings become more prominent, you can go observing the feelings. If the feelings disappear, you can go back to the body. For example, if you observe the feelings and the feelings disappear, and then afterwards, many thoughts come up. So you can start observing the thoughts. If thoughts disappear, you can go back to the body. So this is how it is called. Whatever you observe, it should be noticeable or very prominent to your experience. So now let's start with the breath. The breath is ever present. It is good to start with observing the breath. For the in breath, you mentally note in breath and then see the rise of it. For the out breath, you mentally note out breath and see the fall of it. So, and this can be observed in a gross way. For the in breath, mental note, it can be the tip of the nose. For the yes, for the tip of the nose. If it is in the tip of the nose, you can observe it grossly. In breath, mental note, in breath, and then the rise of it. And for the out breath, mental note, out breath, and see the fall of it. So, and as I already told, for the in breath, we can see the rise and fall of the in breath itself, or the out breath to see the rise and fall of the out breath itself. That is to see more details of it, and mental note accordingly. Called what you observe. So for the feelings, if it is pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, neutral feeling, so try to be aware of them, as called mental note regarding these feelings, and try to see also rise, staying, fall, mental note rise, staying, fall. And about observation of thoughts, whether it is anger, desire, and delusion in our mind, so you try to identify them as much as possible, and see also the rise, staying, and fall of them. And mental note, rise, staying, and fall. So for the observation of mental material phenomena, try to understand what is more prominent. If the visual subject or sound and smell and taste or tangibles are more object, try to see what is more prominent of them and try to identify them. That is one part. And see how they also rise, staying, and fall. And mental note, rise, staying, and fall. This is how this observation should be done with these two parts. First, we know the object, what we observe, and then the second is to see what is the nature of this object, what we observe. So therefore now, we don't try mental as called just impermanent. We must be very precise what we mean with impermanence. What are the things which are impermanent? We must very identify them and try to see the nature of rise, staying, and fall of them. So I'm concluding this presentation here.